The story of lighthouses is as old as civilization's bond with the sea. A story not simply of towers and light, but of humanity's eternal struggle against the dangers of nature and the longing for safety across vast and unpredictable waters. For as long as men and women have dared to sail into the unknown, there has been a need for signs, for markers, for beacons to guide them home. The history of lighthouses begins not with massive towers of stone, but with simple fires on headlands, piles of wood ignited by coastal people to help their kin return safely from fishing or trade. And though these primitive flames may seem humble compared to the great monuments that followed, they represent the earliest expression of the lighthouse idea, to project human ingenuity against the darkness and dangers of the sea. In ancient Greece, bonfires were lit along shorelines, and even small platforms were raised to hold burning torches, while in Phoenicia, one of the earliest seafaring civilizations, similar fire signals marked harbors. Yet it was in Egypt, during the reign of the Ptolemaic dynasty, that the idea reached its first magnificent height in the Pharos of Alexandria. Built around 280 BCE on the island of Pharos to guide ships into one of the busiest ports of the ancient world. Described by ancient writers as a towering structure of gleaming white stone rising perhaps as high as 350 feet, the Pharos was a marvel, combining the function of a beacon with the symbolism of imperial power. Its fire, magnified by polished bronze mirrors, could be seen for miles at sea, and sailors of antiquity considered it a miracle of both engineering and salvation. The Pharos became so famous that its name, Pharos, entered many languages as the very word for lighthouse. And though earthquakes eventually toppled it between the 10th and 14th centuries, its image and legacy remained the model for centuries of builders to come. The Romans, inheriting the maritime networks of the Mediterranean, embraced the lighthouse as both a practical tool and a statement of empire. They built structures at critical ports, such as Ostia, Ravenna, and Dover, and their design emphasized durability, using stone and mortar to raise towers that could endure storms and war. Among the most impressive survivors is the Tower of Hercules in northwestern Spain, originally constructed in the 2nd century CE and still functioning today, making it the oldest working lighthouse in the world. For Roman fleets, these beacons were as essential as roads or aqueducts, part of the infrastructure that allowed the empire to control its vast territories. Yet with the decline of Rome and the turbulence of the early Middle Ages, lighthouse construction slowed. Many of the great towers fell into disrepair, while seafaring in Europe became more localized. Still, the idea of the beacon never disappeared. Along the rugged coasts of Ireland, Britain, and Scandinavia, communities lit coal fires or tar barrels on stone platforms to help guide small craft. Monasteries in remote locations sometimes took on the responsibility of lighting coastal fires, regarding the saving of sailors' lives as an act of Christian duty. These modest signals, though far from the grandeur of Alexandria, kept alive the tradition of guiding lights in an age often darkened by instability. By the late medieval and Renaissance period, as European trade revived and long-distance voyages grew in scale, the need for stronger navigational aids returned. The expansion of trade routes across the North Sea, the Atlantic, and eventually across oceans demanded more permanent and reliable markers. Some early Renaissance lighthouses were built under royal patronage, combining utility with the grandeur of state power. In France, King Francis I ordered the construction of the Cordouan Lighthouse at the mouth of the Gironde River. Begun in the late 16th century and completed in 1611, Cordouan was sometimes called the Versailles of the sea. It combined ornate architecture, chapels, royal apartments, and decorative stonework with the essential function of a beacon, symbolizing the union of art and utility. This lighthouse, still standing today, represents a transition point between medieval beacons and the more systematic, technologically advanced lighthouses of the modern era. One of the most fascinating and dramatic chapters in lighthouse history unfolded in England with the attempts to build a lighthouse on the treacherous Eddystone rocks near Plymouth. These rocks lay directly in the path of ships entering the English Channel, claiming countless lives. The first attempt, by Henry Winstanley in 1698, resulted in a wooden tower of eccentric design, more ornate than practical, but nevertheless a bold experiment. Sadly, in 1706,